Queer film is essential because it brings people together in more ways than one.
Queer film is essential.
Queer cinema.
Queer film.
Queer film es esencial.
Queer film is essential.
Queer film is essential right now.
Queer stories are definitely essential. Without them, we wouldn't have an accurate account of our histories, our stories, our lives, our love, what we've been through, the sacrifices, the activism, the joy, the silliness, everything, the fullness of our lives.
Queer film is essential because queer stories are essential.
Because we have vibrant and diverse stories to tell, and there are people that need to hear them.
Because it gives us the mirror to see our reflections, both for good and for bad, but always for our collective benefit.
Because how much Leave It to Beaver can you really watch, you know?
Queer film is essential because we want to show our own stories and we want to project our own desires, our own narratives.
Queer film is essential because it brings representation to the big screen. It helps audiences relate, and it brings the LGBTQIA community as heroes of their own stories.
Queer film is essential because the stories we tell remind us that the gay American dilemma is part of a larger human dilemma, one that masks the messy fantasias at the core of the entire American project.
Queer film is essential because it provides perspective and creates connections.
Because we have our stories to share. Being invisible is not an option.
We need to stay visible, stay connected, and keep making. And also, I don't know who I would be or where I'd be without the movie Carol.
Queer film is essential because it empowers and gives a voice to the oppressed community, but it also contributes to create a sense of belonging and a safe space for the queer community to come together and celebrate itself.
Because it's colorful and evocative and allows us to discover the beautiful juxtaposition between glitter and grit.
It allows us to tell stories about ourselves, often for ourselves.
Queer film is essential because I've never seen myself represented in film when I was growing up. And I think it's time to change that for teenagers. We need to make them feel represented.
Queer film is essential because, honestly, it reminds us that we're not alone.
It shows and tells people that they're not alone. They can show up as they are and be loved and accepted for who they are. I wouldn't be here or feel as comfortable as I do showing up who I am without the few LGBTQ characters and creators that have paved the way.
Queer film is, and always will be essential because it allows us within the community to be able to see ourselves represented up on the screen and thus feel less alone. But it also helps the general public at large that are not part of the community to empathize with our situations and to kind of get a sense of what it's like to live as an LGBT person in the world.
Queer film is essential because culture needs to reflect the full spectrum of humanity.
I didn't even know that my sexuality was a possibility until I saw it represented on screen.
For people like me who didn't grow up with a lot of queer representation around, it provided this escape and this validation that who I was and who I wanted to be was okay, and it was nothing to be ashamed or afraid of.
It is incredibly important for all of us human beings to see ourselves represented on the big screen. And a lot of us are queer.
As a queer musician, I think that queer cinema is absolutely essential because when I was young, it taught me that there were people like me out there in the world that were creating, that were living, that were dreaming. And without queer cinema, I would never have had the courage or confidence to find my community.
Queer film is essential because it's a way to express and to come to understand feelings of otherness and difference and the uncertain nature of desire.
Queer film is essential because there's nothing more powerful than seeing a part of who you are, a part of who you might want to become, or part of you never even imagined reflected on screen. It gives people inspiration, affirmation, and most of all, a lot of joy and possibility. Because it reminds us that we're not alone. Also, it brought me here.
Besides food, water, and sleep, a basic human need is being seen and being heard. That is why queer film is essential.